Hi, I'm Mark Stewart, Vice President of Science Policy at Friends of Cancer Research. I'm excited to share some context on Session 3, Comparator Selection in Multi-Regional Clinical Trials, which will be one of the topics we'll be tackling at our upcoming annual meeting. This meeting takes place in Washington, D.C. on November 4th, and will also be streamed virtually as well. Multi-regional clinical trials allow new therapies to be studied across multiple regions and diverse populations at the same time. They're a powerful way to accelerate global development and improve the generalizability of clinical trial results. But comparator selection, deciding what the control arm should be, is one of the most difficult aspects of MRCT design. The challenge stems from the fact that standards of care can vary widely across regions, and those differences can come from time differences in regulatory approvals, variation in clinical guidelines, real-world practice patterns, reimbursement, and access. And when these differences aren't carefully addressed, these trials can be slowed down, or they can generate results that are hard to interpret and less relevant for patients and regulators in certain regions. And this ultimately can hinder patient access to promising new therapies. Both ICH and FDA guidance documents recognize that comparator selection is a key consideration in multi-regional clinical trials. And these guidances provide high-level principles for global trial design and emphasize the importance of ensuring results are applicable to specific regions. These documents set important guardrails, but they don't go into depth on operational or design approaches and considerations. This is likely reflective of the complexity of the issue and the importance of continued dialogue. Our project builds on the foundation laid out in these documents, and we have brought together diverse perspectives to explore practical strategies to support multi-regional clinical trial planning. To move the conversation forward, ongoing working group discussions have helped map out major dimensions that define standard of care in oncology. And these include regulatory approvals and label language for the population being studied, clinical guidelines and their evidentiary strength, patient and clinician preferences in routine care, how therapies are actually used in practice and their sequencing, the feasibility of delivery of the therapy, for example, whether infrastructure exists to deliver a CAR T or a radioligand therapy, and also reimbursement and access considerations. Each of these factors can influence what is considered standard of care, and together they highlight why standard of care may not be a single, universally agreed upon regimen. And so that brings us to comparator selection. Here, sponsors must balance three major forces: scientific rigor, patient relevance, and global feasibility. And this balancing act really involves defining the disease setting and trial purpose, accounting for regional standard care differences, ensuring patient and clinician acceptability of the selected agents so that trials remain ethical and credible, and aligning with regulators, particularly ensuring that results are applicable to the intended region in which the data will be submitted. And there is no one-size-fits-all approach, which is why comparator selection has become such a persistent and pressing issue for multi-regional clinical trials. At the annual meeting on November 4th, we'll dive deeper into these issues. The session will outline considerations for defining and justifying standard of care across regions, present scenarios that illustrate frequently encountered challenges, such as evolving standard of care during an ongoing trial, or dealing with multiple active regimens at once. And we'll discuss analysis strategies and data generation considerations that might help with design and interpretation of multi-regional clinical trials. The panel will bring together perspectives from regulators, industry, clinicians, and patients. And so in summary, comparator selection in multi-regional clinical trials is both a scientific challenge and a real-world barrier to getting therapies to patients. Our white paper and panel discussion aim to highlight the dimensions of standard of care selection, surface frequently encountered challenges, and more importantly, explore strategies that can help bring greater predictability and transparency to comparator selection. I hope this overview sets the stage for what should be a rich discussion at our annual meeting, and I look forward to engaging with you all there. Thank you.